Hello and welcome to Marketing for Artists. The show you're about to see I developed over 2 decades ago for a small business outreach program for the University of Connecticut. I've shown it probably 100 times to thousands of people, training people who want to start a business or who are in business about the fundamentals of marketing. Now, when I first studied marketing in college, I had an undergraduate degree in engineering, and marketing didn't make enough sense to me. I was used to a world of mathematics and logic, and I even found logic in my business law course astonishing to me. There was quite a bit of logic. I didn't get marketing until I realized marketing is about consumer behavior, which is human behavior, which is not logical, it's emotional. At the time, marketing was too artistic for me. Marketing is more art than business. As an artist, you work with human emotion, and you should find this fairly interesting and you. Now, I'm not dragging you kicking and screaming into the business world. You're already there. The art world has a tremendous overlap with the business world. You are going to be doing business whether you like it or not. When you rent an apartment, buy a car, or even buy groceries, you're doing business. And if you know a little bit about business, those transactions will come out a lot more favorable to you. I'm not advocating you to go to business school. Just find business mentors and learn a little bit about it. Most of the overlap between our worlds is marketing. We have different worlds, and different words that mean the same thing. But basically, accept the concept that a working artist is a self-employed business owner, is an entrepreneur. In this workshop, I want to teach you the fundamentals of marketing. I used this slideshow when I taught 3-credit courses in college in marketing, and I'd show it in the very first day, and I'd say to my students, if you get this, you'll ace the course because every exam question will come out of these fundamentals. You don't even need to buy the book. But we did spend the rest of the 10 weeks drilling through all the fundamentals in the marketing textbook, and every marketing textbook follows these fundamentals. You're going to get in about an hour what those people took a semester to learn. And if you need to be drilled in it, just look at this again or look through the slides until you understand the concepts a little better. Marketing is a process I'm going to introduce you to. I'm going to teach you what you're really selling, and it's not your art. Bear with me. And I'm going to teach you how to find customers and identify them. And hopefully, no, definitely, you'll leave this course with a good idea on an executable marketing plan. So what is marketing really? It is identifying your customer's needs. It starts with the customer. It is not about you. It's not what you like to do. I've worked with inventors, and they have something in common with artists. They build something and then search for a market. That's backwards. Thomas Edison, one of the most commercially successful inventors, found a market need and then invented something to satisfy it. He realized people needed an alternative to gas lights, oil lamps, and he found something that they would like better, that was cheaper and safer. It's not about what you like to do, or it's what they need. And the market and its needs and the competition change, so you have to be adaptable. Now, I use the word need here. That's a strong word. Do customers need art? Do people need art? Or is it something they might like? People need art, and I'm about to prove it. This is the hierarchy of human needs, a big step in behavioral science by a man named Abraham Maslow, done in the 1940s. Up until then, most of the pioneers of psychology, like Freud and Carl Jung studied deviant behavior, studied insanity. And Maslow and his fellows wanted to know what makes healthy people do things. So he developed this hierarchy of needs, starting with the physiological. Obviously, we need food, water, air, and those are very important. And we don't move up the chain of needs until we're satisfied there. Certainly, if we don't have food, water, and air, we're not going to worry about much else. After that comes safety. We want security, security from predators, security from attack, security for our valuables. The United States spends a great deal on safety, from the cop and the fireman in town to the Navy. Safety is very important. But once that's satisfied, we can move to love, belonging, socialization. Now, so far, art doesn't play a role in physiological and safety needs. Now it's starting to play a role in socialization. And humans do have a need for socialization. Social media, blogs, emails wouldn't exist if it wasn't for our need for socialization. Art can be a catalyst for socialization. I can go to a museum or gallery and stand in front of a piece of art and say to a total stranger, I really like that. That's beautiful. Or what the hell is that? And strike up a conversation. People buy art as conversation pieces. People have been gathering to look at each other's art for a long time, since cave paintings. So art is starting to play a role in satisfying human need. Next, after socialization is satisfied, we look for esteem, self-esteem, esteem from others, a feeling of worth. Art contributes greatly to esteem, certainly for the artist, and a lot of people buy art for the esteem by association. Banks put art up in their branches to get the esteem by association from that art. Now, so far, all of the needs are deficiency needs. Once we achieve a certain level, we can move on to the next. We feel as our need is satisfied on those levels, we feel less need for it. Motivation decreases. At the top of human needs is what's called self-actualization. Maslow said, what one can be, one must be. It's highly individual. It is the fulfillment and realization of one's talents and potentialities. It is the most human of human needs. It doesn't happen in the rest of the animal kingdom, nor does art, because they are interlocked on this need. Art gives us that be all you can be. It is our greatness. Like I said, people need art. And as you can see, as we go up, we go from practical to emotional, fact to perception. Self-actualization is individual, it's emotional, it's perceived by the individual, just like art. So what are you really selling? Customers don't want your works of art. They don't want your artistic services. They want the results. This is true of any product. You don't buy laundry soap, you buy clean clothes. You're buying the result. So what results do you provide? These are just some of the many possible suggestions of things that you provide to your customers. And I'm going to talk about customers a lot in this presentation. The results are individually perceived by your customers. They're specific to the customers, their emotion. If you get to know your customers, you'll get to know what results they're looking for. Visibility is the degree to which something is known. As an artist, you need visibility. You want your art to be known. You want it to be appreciated. You want it to sell. Whether you're selling or not, you need visibility. You want to be appreciated for your art. If you stay in your studio and create, you may do great things. And sadly, some of that has been discovered only when the artist passes away and they drag out his body and say, "This is really good stuff. How come I've never seen it?" Get visible. If you're hoping to be discovered, it's great a matter of luck. If you feel that lucky, go down to the casino and put all your money on the roulette wheel, black 17, and see how you do. Now that sounds crazy, doesn't it? But the odds are 40 to 1. Pretty long odds. You wouldn't want to do that. Well, your odds of being discovered are more than 1,000,000 to 1. There are millions of artists out there hoping to be discovered. How many will get discovered? And visibility requires credibility, consistency. To be visible, you have to have a body of work that is credible and consistent. Now we get to the target market. You have to have a target market, a market of customers that you want to target. That's simple. You cannot do marketing unless you can answer the question, to whom? This is the first step. And you cannot define them by what you sell. You cannot say, people who like impressionist art. Walk into a room and tell me who likes impressionist art. You can't do it. You can't tell. You have to define them by who they are in meaningful, obvious demographics. First, geographical area is always a factor. How far is your reach? Be reasonable. You can expand it, but if you overreach, if you try and market to too wide an area, you're going to dilute your message. There's always a socioeconomic group. Are you going to do high-end art or affordable art? Are you going to do caricatures for $20 a pop or portraits for $5,000? Those are two different markets. Those two markets are mutually exclusive. The guy who wants a $5,000 portrait of his wife is not going to go to the person who does caricatures because he's going to think he's a hack. The caricaturist is not going to go to the portrait artist because he's going to think that he can't afford it. So think about what economic group you want to target. Then there may be age and gender. Does your art appeal to a particular group? Ownership and occupation. If you want to be the artist that displays its work in a bank, well, your market is banks for now. There are many different niches you can find, and believe me, a niche is an important thing. Finally, your art may appeal to an ethnic group or religion. This is not discrimination. I had a client once that made beautiful rosary beads out of French crystals, and her market was Catholics. If somebody who was a non-Catholic wanted to buy her rosary beads, she'd be glad to sell it. She's not going to discriminate in sales, but she's not going to advertise in a synagogue. Let me tell you about finding your niche. The more finely you tune your niche, the more you will own the market. My most successful clients focused on a single market, like my hairdresser that only did styling for women of color, Black and Hispanic, because she knew they had specific hair needs that weren't being met. She owned the market. There's an Oriental saying, if you chase two rabbits, both will escape. So focus on one market. Now, once you establish a market, you can extend to a related market. You already have a rabbit you can reach in a limited way to a related market, such as painting canvases, painting murals, painting canvases, repairing canvases. Those are pretty related. Once you get a market in one, you can reach for the other. You're not going to be able to paint canvas and reskin bongo drums. It's too far a reach. Now that you know who your customers are, and if you don't, stop now and really think about it, or go through this presentation and remember, you can't market unless you can answer the question, to whom? So once you know who they are, what do they want? Why do they want it? Why don't they have it now? These are important questions. that you can answer if you know who you're asking. You can ask people in your target market about these things on a casual basis. You're not selling yet. What alternative are they using? If they like a certain type of art and they don't have any, what are they doing instead? And if they're not doing anything, how important is it? Why aren't they willing? Why aren't they motivated? And once you know who they are, you can figure out how they perceive the rewards and consequences of owning your art, of acquiring your art. They invest not only their time, their money, but their time. And overall, the rewards must exceed the consequences. Once you know who they are, you can find out what they think of your art, what their perception is. Then you can work. Now, here's the way it's going to work. You have a studio, you have a target market. They have a perception. You do art in your studio, you do marketing outside the studio. Eventually you can get them into your studio and do marketing there. But first you have to get the rabbit in the studio. Here's what complicates it. Every one of us as human beings have a map. We're born with three instinctive fears: fear of falling, fear of loud noises, and fear of the dark. Everything else is learned. Every fear, every prejudice, every preference is learned. When you know your target market, because you know their demographics, you know somewhat about what their background is, and you can try and understand their map. You have to get on their map, and it has to be in a positive context. You have a great deal of control over that. That visibility I told you about is going to get you on the map, and it must be considered positive. When you learn about your customers and you'll meet people who meet the demographic, and it's very important that you get to know them, what they say doesn't matter. And that goes against a lot of what they survey customers. What would you say? What do you say? I don't care what customers say. I'm more interested in what they do. I don't care if they like it or they say they would buy it. If you walk up to somebody who's looking at one of your pieces of art and say, "Do you like it?" You're standing right in front of them. You're not going to get an honest opinion. You're going to get something more polite. Ask behavioral questions. Is this anything like anything you've purchased? What do you collect? What do you collect, not what do you like? This is how you get on the map. And opinions are analog. Some questions are yes and no. Would you like me to stab you in the heart? Is a yes or no question. Unless the person is suicidal, they're going to say no. Do you like this? Well, how much? There's always a degree. And you need to feel this for your target market. Sometimes a target market has influencers, which is a secondary target for you to work on. Not your customers, not your potential customers, but influencers to them. It's not always an option. Clearly think this out. First, you need to know who the target market is to know who clearly affect their buying decision. For example, when I was teaching in college, the publishers of textbooks would give me all the free textbooks I wanted to look at as professors' review copies. I wasn't the customer, but I was a strong influencer on the students who would pay through the nose to buy the book I chose. You've been a victim of this, I'm sure. So what are the influencers for your art? Possibly interior directors, collectors, and museums where your target market goes. Getting into one of those is going to help you a great deal. Getting into a gallery that your target market finds attractive. That's an influencer. And there's public art and artist calls. Those are influencers. They're not the customer. The city is the customer, but the manager is the influencer. And marketing through influencers can differentiate your approach. Your customer, from your target market to customer, to turn them into customers, they must have a sufficient relationship, that visibility. They must know you must be on their map. They must have the authority to make this purchase. If you're marketing to children, they're not the ones that make the decision. They have to have the need, and that's up to you to understand your target market to see what their needs really are. And of course, they have to have sufficient financial resources. They have to have the money and the time. Appropriate timing. Timing is everything. Now, in business school, we learned the marketing mix as the 4 Ps. I guess they figure if you're in business school, you need all the help you can get remembering stuff. So there are 4 Ps. First is the product, in your case, your art, or your art services. It must be optimized for the target market. Now, right now, you may have a body of work. You can't define your market by your work, but it may suggest a target market. And once you decide on a target market, all of the art that would be appropriate for that market is the stuff you're going to show. Don't throw out the rest. You can keep it in your studio so that if a customer visits, you can say, this is work I did before I focused on home decor, whatever. It gives you credibility and versatility and gives you a little backstory. Your story is going to be very important because one unique thing your art has is you, and I'm going to talk about that a lot. So you could also have a service or a combination. You not only do canvases, you repair canvases. You will install the canvas. That sounds menial, but think about it. If you hang a canvas in somebody's home or business, you have a great deal of control over the way it is presented. Hanging it wrong, and a lot of people who don't know the art will put it in the wrong place and not like it. It can make a big difference. All the components of your product must have a commonality and appeal for your target market. Dissimilar products dilutes your ability to sell any. Warren Buffett used to explain how he chose which businesses to invest in. He said, if the owner of the business could explain to a 5-year-old in 2 minutes what that business does and the child understands, then I would consider that business. Otherwise, they don't have enough focus. Your product, your art has practical components, the core benefits, the beauty, the tangible form, how big, how much. And then there's an enhanced form. Are you going to sell on credit? Are you going to deliver? I told you that's a good idea. Are you going to alter? If they say, I like it, but it's too big, can you make one smaller? Are you willing to do that? That is a big plus. Service is a big plus, and I'm going to talk about service in a whole set of slides. Stay put. Of course, your art has emotional components, perceived value, whether it's compatible with the target market's lifestyle, whether it gives esteem, and sometimes bragging rights. Sometimes people will pay a lot of money for a piece of art to say, I paid a lot of money for a piece of art. Here's an example. Wasn't a client, but I really liked his art, called light paintings. And what he does is he composes these with light sources and these little squares or oblong shapes of dichromic glass. I've never seen this glass. He must make it himself because it's pretty interesting. It passes light in one color and reflects it in the opposite color of the spectrum. I wanted one of these. Do you see the problem? This is huge wall space, darkened room, really makes the art pop out. I didn't have that. My home was beachfront property with a lot of windows and very little wall space. I didn't have an appropriate place. And I met the guy. I was ready to go to his studio, and I told him I don't have a place for it. And evidently that happened a lot because what he did was he started selling photographs of his light paintings. Brilliant marketing. People go to a gallery and see his light paintings, and they get stoked on this thing. I had never seen anything like it, but I couldn't put it in my home. On the way out, he's selling photographs for $30 a piece. Who wouldn't? It's brilliant. So adapting the product for the target market or the market that was there. The next of the 4 Ps is price. In my experience, artists have a lot of problems developing prices. And I'll give you a little advice for every time. I have never actually told a client to lower their price. I have many times said you should raise your price because it's indicative of value. The price, of course, must be attractive to the target market. And as I said, lower isn't better. And value is established more by benefit, their perceived benefit, which you have a little bit of control over. You can explain the benefits. You can bring out the benefits in their mind. Now, a long time ago, I needed an artist to work for my restaurant chain to do promotional ads and point of display and posters. And I went to the local college, Connecticut College, which has a huge art history department. And I got a little 3x5 card posted soliciting art. And I got a call from a nice young lady. She showed me her work and I really liked it. I liked the style. And I said, okay, I want to start with a print ad for the newspaper. How much to do this ad? And I showed her and she said, well, I don't know. She didn't know price. So I did the right thing. Instead of exploiting her and saying, well, I'll give you $1 more than your work study job, I said, well, price is perceived by the buyer. In New York, they have a saying, what's it worth you? You ask somebody what time it is in New York, they'll say, hey, what's it worth you? They go into a store and say, gee, I like that. How much is it? What's it worth you? That's really true. What is it worth the customer? So I explained to her, this print ad I'm going to use once, and it's only worth about $100 for the artwork. But I've got other projects. Here's a project she did, and I paid her $500 to do the border on my series of History of Ice Cream placemats. I looked up various historic passages about ice cream, put them in the middle of the placemat. She did the border, which suggested some of the stories, and they were the placemats that went on the table, and from the time people ordered their food till they got it, they had nothing better to do than read the story and think about ice cream. And when my waitress cleared the table, she said, not, did you save room for dessert, but are you ready for your ice cream? My ice cream sales doubled because of this little program. Business, marketing, art. Now, the measures of benefit, which are the numerator of that value proposition, you have control over, and you can certainly bring them to the forefront when you discuss your art. Quality, quantity, how efficient it is, and whether you're willing to do a little more, delivery, installation, and maintenance. I told you, delivery and installation may seem like menial chores, but they really add value, a lot of value, and get you into people's homes so you can see what the context of this art is going to be and understand your market just a little more. Oh no, first business, now economics. Well, you are going to live with the laws of economics all your life, just as you will live with the law of gravity. This is simple economics, the supply and demand. As price goes up, demand goes down. As price goes up, the supply goes up. The number of artists willing to sell their work at a higher price increases. Your price will end up gravitating towards the intersection of supply and demand. If you're priced below, you won't be able to keep up with the demand for your work. That's indicating you should raise your price. If you price too high, you're going to spend a lot of time waiting between jobs, indicating you should lower your price. You see, the forces of economics will bring you to that equilibrium if you're willing to be intelligent, sensitive to what's going on, and flexible. Remember, they don't want your art, they want the results. Here's a portrait that someone did, not for me. She did do my dog, but this is an oil painting by a self-taught artist who turned out pretty good. When I asked her how much, she said $3 a square inch. Now, being a reformed engineer, I didn't mind the math. And I picked out a size, and it cost me almost $1,000, and I was very happy. But what's wrong with $3 a square inch? It is a valid price solution. It's a valid answer to how much, but it's not strategic. If that person were looking at this presentation, I would say, don't make your customers do math. Set prices for various standard size canvases. Pick the size that you're most efficient at, whether it be 20 by 30 or 16 by 20, whatever. That's the one you want to price at $3 a square inch, and your price should go up proportionately going either way. And when you get to something that's too big, so big that you have to stand on a ladder to do it and run to the other side of the room to see if it's working, you might want to price that quite a bit higher than $3 a square inch. Strategic pricing. Think about what you would do for strategic pricing for your art. The next in the marketing mix is your presence, your place, where people find you. And it need not be a physical location. It may be virtual. It may be a third party. You may be displaying in somebody else's store. You may be displaying in somebody's studio. It's where customers find you. And as everything else, your presence should be optimized for the target market. Where are they going to find you? Now, you may well have a virtual presence. You may well have both a physical and a virtual presence. But a virtual presence is a very good thing for an artist. You have all of these social media, but they just are bait. You show enough so that the customer wants to tell me more, and they go to the website. That's where you focus your sales effort. Now, use your brand only for your art online. If you're going to use your name for your art, well then do your political rants and your dating site under a different name. Your brand is going to be very important. That's your identity for your product. That's your identity to your target market. So consider what social media your target market will see and curate all social media and the website for that target market. Now, the way to do this with less effort is have all these social media show some art and direct people to the website. Don't put prices anywhere but on the website, and I'll explain that decision too. That way you can leave, for the most part, the social media alone and make the website the dynamic, up-to-date thing. You can do neat things on a website, like video, like pages of your art categories, list of your showings, posting your studio open hours. All that goes on the website, which is where you do most of your work. Get people to the website. Now, should you price things on the website? People are going to ask how much sooner or later. If you think your price is attractive to your target market, by all means list it. It'll get rid of the tire kickers, and it will get people to take the next step. If you feel you want to negotiate price, then have them call. That's a big buy-in, though. Going from a website to a phone call or a visit is a big buy-in, so consider your strategy. You can do event marketing, where your presence is a pop-up. It happens from time to time and place to place. Art shows, street fairs, gallery openings, one short time event. Will it work for you? Well, once again, target market. Will the event be attractive to your target market? Will your target market attend? What will the context say about your art? If it's a flea market and you're not going to sell high-end stuff there, if you want to do caricatures for $20 a pop, that's a great place for you. Partner for impact. All of these events have an organizer, and all of those organizers will be glad to take your money for a booth, but first, make sure that they're going to help you get the right placement and exposure and set yourself apart. They'd love to have all the artists doing portraits in a row because it's very convenient to have portrait alley. You don't want to be among your competition. And if you're going to do these events, you're going to be face to face. Can you sell? I've had clients who were such poor salespeople that they would not be able to sell blood at a midnight vampire convention. And I've had other people who are so good at selling that they could sell ice cubes to Eskimos. You know the two types, you've seen them. How do you go from one to another? By getting social, by going out and putting yourself before people, not to sell art, but to get practice on putting yourself out there. You could go to a Chamber of Commerce meeting or another kind of meeting that's not necessarily about art. Meet total strangers. Hopefully, you'll pick strangers that are in your target market and start talking with them about themselves. Eventually, they will get around to what do you do, and you get your chance. If you're going to do an event, is your art portable? People don't want to carry a 60 by 40 canvas around the event. What are you going to do about that? Are you going to let them buy it and hold it for them till the end of the event? Are you going to take a deposit? Are you willing to ship? Are you willing to deliver? All these things can be extra income. Closing the deal. The customer's close encounter. Once you get an attendee to your booth or looking at your art, what are you going to do? Well, consider the expectations. Are they there to buy or are they to look? And make your pitch appropriate to that. If they're there to look, you want to get them to tell me more, come to my studio. I'm doing a showing at such and such a place. Here's a card inviting you. You need to have an opening and closing strategy. What do you say when you first meet somebody? How do you bring it to making the sale? And it will take time to steer that, to give that potential customer the things that they need. Your presence, their understanding of their need for your art, and what's unique about it. Explain how you came about creating it. And what about you? You are one unique person. Your backstory is important. I'm going to bring that up again and again in this presentation. And I'm going to tell you to stay away from Me Too marketing. Just being there is not enough. Just having a business card that says artist is not enough. What do you do? I've seen, and you'll be able to see them now, a print ad in a magazine or a newspaper that says, Joe's painting. Well, that's just another painter. It may Joe may get some self-esteem by seeing his name in print, but it's not going to do him any good. It doesn't give anybody a motivation to get Joe to do painting for them. The last of the P's is promotion, and it's usually the first thing people think of when you think marketing. Oh, television, media. No. Promotion is the last step. First, you need the right product, the right price, priced for customer access, placement, presence. And it starts with the target market. All these have to be right for the target market. You can't do promotion if you mess up one of these steps, because you cannot nag somebody to buy something that they don't like at a price they consider unfair at an inconvenient encounter by nagging them with advertising. It doesn't work. You cannot overcome a mistake with advertising. Promotion should always be, promotion for any business is, define the target market. It always starts with that. Reach them with your message. And you're reaching the target market, not everybody. Focused promotion. And your message is always what makes you different. What makes you different enough that they're going to change their behavior, going from not customers to customers. And what I call them, your unique selling points, your USPs. There has to be a USP, at least one, and hopefully three, that set you apart from the rest of the people doing what you do. So what makes your art different? Not low price, not high quality, not better service. People hear this all the time and they become immune to it. What are the hard facts? Value. I taught you about value. It's not price, it's benefit divided by price. You should be able to explain the value proposition, the benefit of your work, what this brings to the customer, what makes it unique, and prior recognition and testimonial to corroborate that your stuff is really good. This is a great opportunity. They can own something unique. This is not manufactured. It's not cookie cutter. It's a unique creation that'll be just theirs. And they can get the esteem of joining other collectors. And your fascinating history, I told you, no other work of art has you. Your backstory is very interesting. Be entertained with it. This goes from statements, hard facts, to storytelling, all important. Everything on that spectrum is necessary to make a good promotion. Now, communication versus carpet bombing. You can advertise in the newspaper, but if only a few of those people that read it are your target market, you're wasting money. You're reaching 30,000 people who are not your target market. Think about where your target market can be reached, not what is easy for you to get into. You reach them where they are, in what they read, listen, or see, through their friends and advisors, those influencers I talked to you about, and where they do business or network. We'll talk about networking later in detail. One of the most effective means of promotion is word of mouth. People are listening to the words of somebody they know. It gives the message a lot of credibility. In order to generate word of mouth, obviously you have to give the customer something to talk about. Give people something to talk about to customers. What could that be? A differentiated product or experience. Outstanding product, attractive price, easy to do the transaction. You entertain or educate with your story. People will talk about this neat artist they met. What is a useful or unusual aspect of your art that becomes conversation for someone else? It has to be easy to remember and communicate. A simple message. A message of your choosing. You have a control over this because you should have an elevator pitch. An elevator pitch, imagine you're getting in an elevator and there's somebody you know who's in your target market. He's going up 3 floors and you have that amount of time to introduce yourself and generate interest. Come up with an elevator pitch. It'll be almost automatic and it'll be effective, and you can refine it and work on it. You identify the talkers and dazzle the talkers. There are influencers that are just mild influencers on, and you know who they are. They're people that people listen to. All right? You name any commercially successful artist, and you name a tireless self-promoter. This is what I'm trying to instill to you. Thomas Kincaid, amazing self-promoter. Pablo Picasso. Georgia O'Keeffe did some really wild stunts to get her name out there. Robert Weiland. Who is Robert Weiland? This guy. He does marine art, like you see here. And by the way, if you're going to do a business card, and you should, the back of it should have something like this. Not him and his art, you and your art. Your personality, your art. That picture is worth 1,000 words. You could have 2 different pictures, 3 different pictures, 2 of your art and 1 of you. In your studio with a smile. This is a really good shot for the back of a business card. And by the way, the front of the business card, the purpose of that is to communicate information. Don't get artistic. Do the communication. So Robert has one studio in Key West, Florida, and he's a beach bum and he's a cool guy. And this is an old picture. He's about 67 now. How did he promote his art and extend the reach of his little studio in Key West nationally? He did this. He went around the country and found a building that somebody would let him paint a mural on, free of charge, signed, and he's got one in all 50 states. Made quite a name for himself. Oh, that was 30 years ago, and now they're either retouching the murals, because Robert isn't going to go around and redo them, or they're pulling them down, but they worked. It was a promotion that worked, and that's why I'm telling you about it. Networking expands your reach. You may be a little bit introverted right now because you spend a lot of time alone with your art, but after you get out of school, you're going to have to expand your reach, increase your visibility, and have a presence. And networking is a good way to do that. Networking is simply working through your acquaintances to their acquaintances. You get multiples. It requires trust and credibility, and a few more things I'll talk about, but here's why it works so well. Let's say you're looking for a lithographer to make prints of your canvases. If you go to a Chamber of Commerce meeting or a gathering of any social group, and your odds of finding a lithographer there are pretty slim. Your odds of finding somebody that knows where you can find a lithographer are almost certain. That's what you're up to in networking. Here's how to be effective in networking. Solve the other person's problem. Everybody comes to a networking event with something that they would like to do, an introduction they want, a problem they have. Many times you can solve their problem because of your experience covers it. Do so without expectation. You'll become a popular person. Networking is reciprocal. Somebody who goes there with a basket of problems and is not going to help anybody else is a parasite. Parasites get brushed off. Prepare. What do you want to accomplish in this social gathering or this business gathering? Short list, no more than 2, hopefully just 1, because if you go there with too much a laundry list of things you're looking for, you become a parasite. Who should you ask? Who would be the perfect person? Go to the organizer and say, I'm looking for somebody that knows a lithographer. Who do you think I could ask? And then you get an introduction. And you can call the target and set up the contact possibly. Maybe it's better to meet them socially first and do the follow-up call. At the event, first of all, look the part. You want people to be comfortable talking to you. So you're an artist, you can look like an artist, but if you're going to a Chamber of Commerce meeting, you want to also look enough Chamber of Commerce so that people won't think you don't belong there. An introduction is always better than an ambush. If you want to meet somebody, get the organizer of the event to do introduction, find a friend who can introduce you. We dismiss most phone calls these days because they're spam. Unless you are introduced, you're assumed to be spam when you walk up and start talking to a stranger. It's not about you yet. Now, first trick I'll teach you here. Well, first, one of the many tricks I'm going to teach you in this slideshow, I learned from a politician. If you always wondered how politicians remember people's names, well, one of them told me the secret. He said, use their name 3 times immediately. How do you do, Jane? Good to meet you, Jane. So, Jane, what do you do? Now, Jane, the word Jane and their face are associated in your mind. Then you talk about them. Let them tell you all about themselves. People love to talk about themselves, and eventually they will ask, what do you do? And you hit them with that elevator speech. And if they ask you questions, you answer them. And if you do it right, you'll get that. Tell me more. That's your goal if you're trying to sell art in a networking situation or find customers for your art. Remember, they might not be a customer, but they probably know somebody that could be. And learn how to close politely. That business card I told you about. Or if you can create an opportunity for a follow-up, would you like me to call you? Proper networking requires maintenance. Don't let it all end when you walk out of the event. You've made a friend. If you determine that they are prospects or influencers, you don't want to disappear from their life. You want to maintain a presence. You want to be a resource for them, a buddy. Don't let them go stale for 5 weeks. You'll be forgotten. So remind yourself with a tickler file. In other words, put their business card to be looked at again in 4 weeks and considering contacting them. And remember, networking doesn't have to be at a public event. You can call somebody in your network and say, I'm looking for a plumber or whatever. And you keep your network vibrant that way. Avoid fatigue. Remember, you have to be part of the solution for these people as well as them being part of your solution. And you build trust through consistent behavior. You are building a community, a network. So in marketing, you always stay on target, your target market, your marketing plan, your marketing mix, but it's a moving target. Your market is changing, your competition is changing, and with time, that will cause your art or the way you sell your art to change. And always promote by plan. It is called the marketing mix, the interdependency of the target market, the product, price, presence, and promotion. There is always a personal service component in every product. And service may be why you decide to start buying something. It's a great product, but they told me they'd do this, and they said a free maintenance for a year, whatever. Think about the service that you provide. And a service failure is most likely the reason why you stop buying something. So as an artist, follow up on sales. Make sure they're happy. An unhappy customer is a horrible thing out there. And I'll tell you why very shortly. What service can you give? Well, I told you at the point of sale, if it's too big for them to lug, you're going to have to give them some kind of a shipping, delivery, packaging service. Installation, I told you what a value added that is and how important it is and how it helps satisfy the need more than just them hanging the art itself. I purchased things and brought them home, and well, I hang them when I get around to it, and tuits come in squares, not rounds, so it's a long time before I get around to it. And if the artist had hung it, I'd have enjoyed it that much more. Think about that. Maintenance. You could offer repairs and maintenance. I know a person who maintains art, repairs canvases, and she makes a good amount of money. Think about it. Somebody has a painting that they've already purchased, that they've had, that they choose to keep, and it's damaged. What do? They're heartbroken. You can do that repair and charge a good deal of money because you know what it's worth to it, what's worth you. And service can prevent the dreaded outcome of buyer remorse, which creates a network from hell. Customer complaints to you are a favor. Most buyers' remorse does not result in a complaint to you. It results in a complaints to their network. They broadcast it on high. This guy is a bum. And you may not even know it if you don't follow up on sales. And a satisfaction recovery is better than initial satisfaction. Now you've really made an impression. That artist wants me to be happy. I'm beginning to like that person. And if you're indifferent, I don't care what their problem is. They say it's too blue, and you say, well, I don't care. You got to do something to fix it. And if nothing else works, money back satisfaction guarantee. Believe me, it's cheaper than having an enemy out there sabotaging your marketing. And remember, customers all are individuals with their own perception of justice. I once had a problem with a sail I bought for my sailboat, and I brought it in. I said it doesn't furl properly, and we talked about different solutions. And the sailmaker disarmed me. She said, "What can I do to make you happy?" And I wasn't a sailmaker. I couldn't tell her how to fix it. And I said, "Well, the result I want is just to furl properly. What do you think?" But she disarmed my dissatisfaction with the product. What can I do to make you happy? Remember that. If all else fails, it shows you care, and it gives you an opportunity to finally get it fixed. That's the end of this show. And it's just the beginning for your marketing adventure. Find a marketing mentor. I'll be glad to help you. You have my email address. Oh, if you don't, it's Peter, Peter, at mcmill.com. I'll be glad to hear from you and talk about marketing and answer your questions. Thanks again.